Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Some more good fight news in the heavyweight division, with two good fights confirmed, Bryant Jennings and Oscar Rivas for January 18th, and in another matchup, rising prospect Nathan Gorman will take on former title challenger Alex Laepai December the 22nd. So I'll start with the Jennings and Rivas fight first. I'll go through some information from the press release, followed by a few thoughts, and then on to Gorman and Leapai. Buckle in. Let's go. So the press release issued by Top Rank for this fight, this Jennings and Rivas fight, it says, Bryant B.Y. Jennings is itching for another heavyweight title shot. The 34-year-old Philadelphia native has won 5 consecutive bouts, 4 by knockout, and is intent on making an emphatic statement. Jennings will put his IBF International and NABO heavyweight belts on the line in a 12-round showdown against unbeaten NABF champion Oscar Kaboom Rivas on Friday, Jan 18 at the Turning Stone Resort Casino in Verona, New York. Rivas' participation in the bout is contingent on him defending his NABF title on December 1st against Fabio Maldonado in Quebec City. And then the release it goes on to talk about the fight being streamed on ESPN Plus, as you'd expect. Ticket information released soon, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so quotes. Jennings says, I've been in this situation before. This is not a tall order at all. The job is to stay focused. I'm going to keep grinding and not take anybody lightly. Talk is cheap. Rivas, meanwhile, he says, I've waited for this opportunity for a long time. Jennings is an excellent boxer. He's a world-class fighter and exactly the kind of challenge I was hoping to face. It is now time to take care of business and step up for the real challenges. There's a little bit of boxer background information. Actually, I'm going to get to it just for the interest value. Jennings, 24-2, 14 KOs, a former football, basketball and track star at North Philadelphia's Ben Franklin High School, did not pick up a pair of boxing gloves until he was 24 years old. He turned pro following an abbreviated 17-fight amateur career and quickly rose the ranks despite his limited experience. He fought valiantly in a 2015 title shot against Vladimir Klitschko, pushing the future Hall of Famer the distance in front of 17,056 fans at Madison Square Garden. Following a TKO defeat to Luis Ortiz later that year at Turning Stone Resort Casino, Jennings took 20 months off, returning to action in August 2017 under the Top Rank banner. Since then, he has been one of the busiest heavyweight contenders as he seeks another shot on the World Championship stage. In his last bout, August 18th in Atlantic City, as the headliner on the ESPN televised card, Jennings recovered from a 4th-round knockdown to stop longtime contender Alexander Demetrenko in the 9th. Rivas, 24-0, 17 KOs, a former Colombian amateur standout who now lives in Montreal, has fought all but 2 of his professional bouts in Canada. A 9-year pro, he transitioned to the paid ranks following a 2007 Pan American Games silver medal and quarterfinal berth at the 2008 Olympics. At 31 years old, the athletic 240-pound Rivas is in his physical prime. He won the NABF title on September 28, 2017, with a spectacular first-round stoppage against former world title challenger Carl Davis Drummond. In his last outing, May 19, at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, he wore down Herve Hubo and prevailed via 10-round unanimous decision to retain the NABF title. Okay, so that's where I'll conclude it with the press release. Some interesting information there. It doesn't actually mention, though, that Rivas has had issues in his professional career passing an eye exam in the United States, and it actually saw his 2016 fight with Gerald Washington cancelled because of that. And it certainly that has slowed his progress, the progress of his career. And Rivas has all but been fighting in Canada, often fighting guys perhaps a level or 2 below who he should have been fighting. But, you know, it's often tough to get guys up to Canada, but they must feel confident that they can pass the eye exam, that it won't be an obstacle for a Jennings fight. Also, they must be confident that Rivas is going to get past his unbeaten Brazilian opponent on December 1st, Fabio Maldonado. He's a guy undefeated in 26 fights, 25 by knockout. He is 38 years old, but he does have what appears to be a very padded resume. And my pick, Rivas will be able to get the win there, probably relatively comfortably, and hopefully without sustaining any damage, because I tell you what, this is a very good fight between Jennings and Rivas. This is the sort of fight that, both guys need to be in at this point in their careers to actually get in the conversation for a title shot. Both have spoken of their desire to fight for a title. And putting aside this December 1st fight, Rivas has stated he believes he's possibly only 2 more fights away from a title shot. And if he manages to beat Jennings, it's certainly going to get him that much closer. Currently, Rivas, he's got 2 rankings, 14th respectively in the IBF and WBC. Jennings, meanwhile, he's ranked in all 4 of the sanctioning bodies now, with the number 2 spot in the WBO being his best. And if he can beat Rivas, well, it's certainly going to help his cause across the board. And his promoter Top Rank is certainly trying to work him into a position for a mandatory shot by way of eliminators if they can. And Top Rank boss Bob Arum, he's recently been making noise that the WBA couldn't skip over Jennings and just gift Jarrell Miller a shot at the WBA regular title. And I do wonder if Arum is also applying similar pressure on the WBO where Jennings is ranked number 2. I'm sure he's trying to get Jennings into some sort of final eliminator for the mandatory spot. And Jennings in position at 2, I can't see Arum just rolling over without a fight and allowing the sanctioning body to just hand a mandatory spot to Dillian Whyte without a final eliminator. And sure, we can all say, yeah, White's done enough for a title shot in the past 18 months, etc. But politics play a part in boxing, and it certainly influences what the sanctioning bodies do and don't do. So don't be surprised if the WBO mandatory isn't given to Dillian Whyte after he beats Derek Chisora. We just have to see where this all goes. But Bob Arum, if he's in the mix, his relationship with the WBO, they're tight. Who knows? But getting back to the fight. So I'm going with the bigger guy here. Jennings, 3 inches taller. He's got a 7.5 reach advantage over Rivas. He will need to use that advantage in this fight. He's going to have to use his jab, keep Rivas at distance, try catch Rivas on the way in, uppercuts, hooks, good punches for Jennings. But I could also see Jennings allowing this to be an inside fight at times. He loves fighting on the inside, and he's pretty good at it. He welcomes inside fighting. But he is going to have to be wary of Rivas, because Rivas, a very good left hook, and he's got a decent overhand right, and that's sort of stopped a lot of guys, stunned a lot of guys. And we saw Alexander Demetrenko in his fight with Bryant Jennings. He was landing that right hand with success throughout that fight, and it was actually a right hand that put Jennings down in the 4th round of their fight. And Rivas, he's got fast hands, he's got good power, so it certainly will not be an easy night for Bryant Jennings. It's actually a fight I find it a little hard to predict. Rivas clearly talented, a little unproven at the top level, and this fight represents a big step up for him. And I'm glad he's got this sort of fight, and if he really thinks he's world championship material, can contest for a title, it's certainly the sort of fight that he does need to be in. But because of the experience factor and Jennings being more of a known quantity, as well as him having the height and reach advantage, I'm picking Jennings to come through this one, and what could be a very tough fight, potentially a very exciting fight. I'm sure there's going to be lots of action, and it wouldn't surprise me if both guys are hurt in the fight, but it's certainly a fight I'm looking forward to see. So let's hope Oscar Rivas gets through December 1st, he isn't injured, doesn't have a cut or anything like that, and he can take on Bryant Jennings January the 18th. Okay, another fight of note that I wanted to touch on is the Nathan Gorman and Alex Laepai fight. That has been added to the Frampton and Warrington pay-per-view card on December 22nd. And I know some people have turned their noses up at this fight in some comments that I've seen on social media. But to me, this is a very good development fight for the 22-year-old heavyweight. And it does represent a minor step up from the competition that he's been facing. And the fact that Leapai is a former world title challenger, it also means that it's a decent name to add to his 14-0 record at this point in his career, and a stepping stone to bigger fights in the next 12 to 18 months. And we know that the British Boxing Board of Control has ordered Gorman to face Daniel Dubois by the end of March 2019, but I'm not convinced that that fight takes place just yet. Be good if it did, but I think Dubois, is he ready for that? Possibly not. He's only 21 years old. Okay, so I'll get to a few statements in the press release and then a few brief thoughts before we go. Okay, so it says Nathan Gorman will defend his WBC International Silver Heavyweight title. Later on it says Gorman is causing quite a stir in heavyweight circles, with the Ricky Hatton-trained 22-year-old having now clocked up 14 fights, 11 wins coming via stoppage. And then it goes on to wax lyrical about Gorman's recent exploits. We can skip over all of that. Gorman believes he will have to be on top of his game to see off the challenge of such a seasoned opponent. Obviously, he's a very experienced opponent who has fought for world titles. He is a dangerous opponent, but also a good one for me, if that makes sense. He will be a good name on my record if I beat him and beat him in style, which I believe I can do. I will have to be on my A's and B's because he's a dangerous fellow with such experience. Some people say heavyweights are in their prime when they reach their late 30s. Leapai himself firmly believes Gorman is jumping the gun by signing up for such a tough test at this stage of his career, considering this country's bright young heavies to be overhyped and untested at a higher level. A lot of these British heavyweights are overhyped without really beating anyone. I'm coming over to burst the bubble of this latest hype job. I've had more knockouts than Nathan has had fights. This is way too soon for Nathan. Both Gorman, Leapai, both talking up the challenge that this fight represents, but sadly for Leapai at 39, he's well past his best now, and if Gorman really is among the best prospects in the division, he's going to beat him and beat him handily, either by a wide decision, embarrassing Leapai through the fight, or by stopping him. And I think his fast hands, the power punching, and Gorman's underrated ring IQ is going to be too much for Leapai. And Gorman, on social media, he stated, former world title challenger, no nonsense, we've given him a full 12-week camp with no games from me. He's coming in shape and to win, and I'll be ready to knock him out and shake his hand afterwards. Simples, let's do this. It's actually a bit of good matchmaking here at this stage of Gorman's career, and I fully expect him to get the win here. I mean, Leapai, he's pretty washed up now. But this will springboard Gorman into 2019, and the division could start opening up for him as he begins that transition from prospect to contender. But I like the fight, and so too with the Jennings and Rivas one. And if we think about the first couple of months of 2019 just for a second, we've got a couple of good contender-level fights that have been confirmed recently. Now, Jennings and Rivas, Washington and Kanelski, that's the following week after the Rivas-Jennings fight, and then Caballal and Wallen in February. So these are some of the fights that we've been calling for, saying we need to see more of. So it's great to see that they have been made, and it's shaping up to be a good start to 2019. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.